Hi, my name's Laura Barman, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about my 7th grader's homeschool subjects that she just completed in May of this year. My 7th grader is a young 7th grader. Her name's Lucy. She has a June birthday, so she's always kind of been on the young end. She's the reason why I started homeschooling, because I just felt like she was on the young end to enter kindergarten, and now as a 7th grader, it made me realize that this is our 8th year. We just completed our 8th year of homeschooling, which is so crazy. But I just want to run through real quick what she did this past school year. We are part of a co-op, and for that co-op, she did BJU Life Science. It looks like this, and she really enjoyed this. This was done pretty much independently with her teacher from co-op assigning her work. They used Google Classroom. She used this binder. The binder had some assignments and things like that. So she really enjoyed that and really self-managed that. I think as she's gotten older and done things with co-op, it has taken some things off my plate and allowed her to grow independent. She took some quizzes and tests with that. She had some projects, end of the year projects, end of semester projects. So that was a great experience for her. Also in 7th grade literature, she did, I think it was 4 books. They did the Wing Feather Saga, Anne of Green Gables, A Wrinkle in Time, and A Place to Hang the Moon. And they really beefed up these literature, these books with a lot of projects, a lot of homework, analyzing characters, analyzing all sorts of literary concepts. She had some projects that she did. I should add a picture. She did like a victory garden, a World War II victory garden that she made, like a cake, and she made like marzipan fruits and vegetables, or vegetables to make a vegetable garden. So that's just one example. It wasn't a ton of reading, but it was a lot of diving into the literature, learning about the literature, writing from it, doing character analysis and things like that. So she also really enjoyed that, really managed it on her own. She had a Google Classroom for that. She had test quizzes and all that and did well in that class as well. She also did this year, that was her I guess just those 2 classes were at co-op. Then she did an online Spanish class, and the online Spanish class was done through Sonlight Academy. I'll put a link below. We were really happy with it. It was it's Spanish 1 class, kind of intended for like a high school 9th grader, I think. We were trying to jump the gun and starting early. I think I was a little maybe a little premature doing that because the class was difficult. Now, I don't think it was a waste because she learned a ton. She learned a ton of Spanish. She made these like Spanish vocab folders. She did great. I did end up helping her with that a little bit. I quizzed her. Sometimes she needed help understanding some concepts. It was our first live online class. She met twice a week for an hour and 15 minutes each time. It was all online quizzes, tests, things like that. She did online oral quizzes too, and I think she did awesome. She ended up with a good grade, but I do think other subjects kind of took a back seat to that, and I think that was my learning experience, was that the co-op classes will be first in their mind of what I need to complete. The online live classes will be also in the child's mind of like, this needs to be done. Absolutely. I have an online teacher that's telling me these need to be done. I have this deadline. It has to be done. These are all great things and good things for them to learn, but it did make it harder for her to focus on the things that I assigned to her. And so I'm going to show you what those are coming up. But anyways, this is the textbook that they used, and this is an amazing book. It is super comprehensive, really cheap. And man, she learned so much vocab. I also recommend this book. I had just kept from my Spanish days. I don't feel like we could have had a good grade on those quizzes without this, because it has the conjugations, all the conjugations of 501 verbs. So as she was learning about verbs and conjugations, this book came in really handy. That was Spanish. I'll put the link below. Another subject that she did kind of independently was math. So we, just her math history, she actually started doing Saxon math back when she was in kindergarten. Then we switched to Singapore math. We did that for about a year. Then we found Math Mammoth, really enjoyed that. Did Math Mammoth, let's see, probably 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Then around the end of 4th grade, maybe early 5th, I think it was either 4th or 5th, it started getting a little difficult. So we switched to Saxon. And we've done Saxon for, I think, 3 years. Let's see, it was 5th, 6th, and 7th. She's done Saxon. So this year she was in this 8-7 Saxon. And this, I have always felt like this about Saxon. Saxon is a great math program. It just takes forever. I mean, we can't figure out a way to do it. Like, I feel like we can't find a way to do it in a reasonable amount of time. So like there's 3 books. It's like this main textbook, and then you have the text and worksheets, and then you have the solutions manual. And this is all part of like the homeschool kit. So she was doing that. We had created this system of like, she would do it, I would correct it, I would give it back to her in the folder corrected. She would look at my corrections that were in red pen. She would correct it. I didn't feel right about giving her the solutions manual. So I didn't want her to see the solutions manual. I wanted her to see, I got it wrong, I'm going to try to get it right. So that's kind of how we did it. She did it. She turned it into me. I corrected it. I turned it back to her. She had this folder. She was correcting it. Then we like corrected the corrections. So then we'd be like, oh, okay, what did you get right from your corrections? And then most of the time, by the time she corrected her wrong ones, most of them were right. But then that's how we found out, okay, these are really the concepts that you're not understanding. And then we would like take out the solutions manual, kind of go over those together. We did that for maybe half the year. And then second half of the year, I had her do My Math Assistant, which is an online program, kind of like Nicole the Math Lady. She really, really liked that. That was a way for her to input her answers online, and it would grade it for her. So that helped us out, and it helped take some time off of our plate, like working together on math. I don't know, we just kind of got behind, and it was so hard to catch up. I feel like Saxon, if you get behind in the lessons, which we did, and I think it was because of the co-op classes and the Spanish class, we got behind on math. Saxon is not one that's easy to be like, oh, just do 2 lessons a day. That will be like hours and hours and hours. And she couldn't even focus for that long. So then, okay, do 2 math lessons, and then do 4 pages of 4 corrections. Well, that ended up being like an overwhelming amount for her. So then I started researching alternatives. I was like, okay, you've done 3 years of Saxon. Let's see what we can do. We looked into CTC math, and I really, really liked it, how it, for placement, just for placement, for what she needs to do next. It was not just like a 1 placement test. It was like, we're going to do placement tests on every single unit that was done the previous year. So she is going to be doing 7th grade. She's currently doing 7th grade placement tests for 8th grade to every single unit in the CTC math. She is currently going over that this summer to be like, okay, these are our weak areas, these are our strong areas in 8th grade. We were kind of ready to go on to 8th grade math, but we have like these 3 problem areas, and it will tell you, hey, you need to, these are 3 problem areas. She can go back and watch some videos on those problem areas. She can do these lessons in these problem areas. She can do quizzes on these problem areas. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to be like, okay, we've kind of jumped around some math. I want to make sure you're really solid before we move on to 8th grade. So we're going to basically look at all the 7th grade, fix the weak points, and then hopefully move on to 8th grade at the beginning of 8th grade. I also like that CTC math, it has all the grades. So when you pay for it, like, you have all the grades. I was really hoping that for 8th grade, she'd be able to do Algebra 1. I don't know if she's quite ready, but I'm thinking if she can go at a little faster speed in CTC math, maybe she could get to Algebra 1 at the end of the 8th grade year. It doesn't have to be like you have to be ready at the beginning of the year to do Algebra 1 or nothing. I'm hoping that we can kind of breeze through 8th grade and then hopefully start Algebra 1 a little early. That's the plan with that. I'll let you know how it goes next year's video. But so far she really, really likes CTC math, so I didn't want to give a shout out to them. For ELA, we have done CC Essentials program for the last couple of years with her, and this year was really interesting because it felt kind of strange to be done with that and not to know what to do next. I thought, wow, you've really learned a lot of punctuation and grammar and sentence diagramming, but it feels really strange to just not touch it at all. Our co-op said, okay, if you want to complete ELA, you're hitting literature with this literature class, but you also need to be doing some like punctuation, grammar type things. So they recommended easy grammar. I had these daily grams, and this is like a great easy way to just stay on top of grammar. She did not like stay on top of this to the extent that I wanted her to. I think a lot of it was just overloaded in other subject areas. I was very nervous for her testing that she just did. and she did great. She did great on her ELA, her math, all of that. So it made me realize that the CC Essentials program had taught her what she needed to know. It had prepared her. She had the knowledge base to continue to test well. This is definitely going to be a goal. It says grade 7. I think we're just going to keep going with it in 8th grade and try to be more diligent. Try to have, I'll talk about the end of the video, but I have some ideas for how to make our next year a little more seamless. The same company also does this Easy Grammar Plus, and I am not super clear on how this is different than the Daily Grams. We ended up just doing the Daily Grams because it seemed like it was hitting a bunch of topics on a 1-page sheet instead of one topic. I think that might be the difference. I think the Daily Grams kind of like covers a lot of topics on a daily sheet, and the Easy Grammar Plus is more like topical, going through different topics. She did spelling workout for her spelling and finished up the spelling D and moved on to spelling E. We're going to keep going with spelling E next year. This is a great, easy, if your kid is like not maybe super great at spelling, it's just like a really easy, painless, I wouldn't say the words are easy, but getting it done is easy. Like, it's just a weekly list. There's some little games that they can play with the list. Let's show you. It's kind of like what you would expect from like a spelling program, like find the words from the list, fill in the blanks, things like that. It just gets them working with the words, and then it seems like all I had to do was just do the spelling test at the end of the week, and we would keep track of which ones they got wrong and add that to the next list. So totally manageable. Also in ELA, we were trying to do some writing. I had heard great things about Lost Tools of Writing. CC does this, other co-ops in our area do this. And I found this program that had videos for it, and that's what we did, and we made it a little bit, we probably made it almost halfway through. This was one of the things that also dropped off, and instead of getting super discouraged about it, we had a baby this year, so I think our pace was maybe not what it has been in other years. But when I look back, this teaches you how to write a persuasive essay, and she did learn that. Like, we didn't do the whole book. We did a portion of it. I'd say we did a third of the book. I still think she learned how to write a persuasive essay. So we will probably, actually the plan is to continue with this and to use it in 8th grade, because you can use this method. I think it's a great thing to do after IEW. She had done like 3 years of IEW, I think, already. So we were ready for something different. This teaches them kind of like a model of how to write a persuasive essay off of anything. And I really, really like that, because it can be on any book you're reading. So sometimes we did it with her co-op, the book she was reading in co-op. Sometimes we did it on a previous book that she had read and knew really well, or we could have even used a book that we were reading as a family. Any book that's like top of mind, you can come up with like should this character have done this action, and then really, really think through that. So that was really fun and interesting to like brainstorm what her stance was on the her thesis, basically. And that was something new, and I thought that was great. So we really enjoyed that. Our history this year, we did Story of the World, volume 3, and I've always loved Story of the World. It's like, to me, almost like the perfect history curriculum for a variety of ages. It's like designed for a group of ages. We just read every time we sat down together to have our history time, which I tried to have like a daily group subject time. We would read one chapter of this. I would print off the coloring pages from the activity book. Now I put it in a binder, but it looks like this. I ripped out the activity pages that are like you would need to copy, and I put the ones that you would need to copy in here, if that makes sense. And then, here's an example of like a coloring page. So it's really, really easy to grab the coloring page, stick it in the printer, make a couple copies, and then we would just kind of spread out colored markers and pens on the table. They would color. Oh, and then every chapter has a map and a coloring page. So like here's a map. I would normally do a copy of the map and do a copy of the coloring page. Give them each one of those. We would normally get like a spine. There's some spines in the like Usborne world history things. I would normally display that because that has a bunch of nice pictures. Have that displayed like on a book holder at the front of the table, so that give them like a visual to look at. And then we just read it. And then in this book, I feel like this, you have to have this to make it a full curriculum. Because in here it has review questions that we would do, and then a narration exercise that we would sometimes do, and then additional history reading, which we did not do that this year. We did not do corresponding literature, and we didn't really do any of the projects. I think that was, I guess we just didn't get to that this year, being honest. But we still learned a lot. And I mean, I guess I'm here to tell you that even if you don't have time to do the projects or the additional reading, that curriculum can be awesome, and you can learn a ton just by reading it, doing the questions. I think the questions are great. Oh, and we also have the tests. Test and answer keys are right here. So I, at the beginning of the year, just made copies for all the kids, so those were ready to go and printed and stapled and everything. And we did some of those tests. We did not do every single one. It gets to be a lot to do every single one, but you totally can. And I would love to be more diligent about that in the future. Also with history, we did this Good and Beautiful U.S. Constitution and Government course book. It came with this. This is the teacher guide. And then you get one of these student journals for the older kids. So I had 2 that had this. And then I had a 3rd grader, and I bought this one. Now, I don't remember how they had on their website. The 3rd grader really needed this one. And so I ended up making a ton of copies of this throughout the year. I was regretting, because this does not line up. It didn't line up. The teacher guide would refer to things in this book, and he didn't have it. So anyways, that's just a word to the wise. This says grades 4 through 8. I think that's totally accurate. My 3rd grader did it, but it was an intellectual stretch for him. I don't know if he got everything. I think he probably got some things from it. And you know, we'll call that a day. I mean, there wasn't really another option for us, because I really, really, really wanted to cover this on the election year. So I was really glad we did that. We loved it. It stretched my brain. We read through the entire Constitution and, you know, kind of like picked it apart, and we learned so much. I highly recommend it. They have this little read aloud that goes with it. This is pretty good. The kids liked it. I wouldn't say it's like the best book I've ever read, but it got the job done, and it kind of tied in with what they were trying to teach. So we did that. It said a semester course. For us, it took a little bit over a semester, because we were still trying to do Story of the World here and there. And then for Read-alouds, I had purchased Sonlight Core E, which is American history. And we read so many great books. So let me show you some of the books we read. We read All Sail Set. This is all about sailing. Really interesting. The Great Wheel, Across 5 Aprils, Moccasin Trail. I think I'm doing these out of order. Behind Rebel Lines. Some of these are like Civil War. Cheaper by the Dozen. It's just kind of a comedy, but set like early 1900s, so really interesting. Great Turkey Walk. These are all set in, like, I would say 1850 to 1950, it felt like. Little Britches, we love this one. I ended up getting the 2nd one of that series. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. And The Winged Watchman is actually about World War II. We also, since that was Sonlight Core E, that is History Bible Literature. We were doing Story of the World, so I had that core, and I just didn't do the history books with it. That was just a decision. That was a really, really tough decision, because I love the Sonlight Read-alouds, and I wanted to do a Sonlight set of Read-alouds, but we also love Story of the World, so I just couldn't choose. And so I was like, okay, we're just gonna do volume 3 and hope that some of these books kind of line up. I would not say that they lined up perfectly, but it was a great batch of books, and we really, really enjoyed it. This was another batch. This was a book that was actually in the history component that we just decided to read. It's about William Wilberforce. Really, really good. Then that Sonlight Core E also doesn't just have read-alouds, it also has readers for the kids to read. And when I showed you how my daughter, she had done those 3 books for her co-op, and plus A Place to Hang the Moon, I thought that she could read a little bit more, so I just had her read like some more assigned reading. She did The Perilous Road, Seeing Down the Moon, Freedom Train, and Turn Homeward, Hannah Lee. And there was like a whole, because I had Sonlight Corey, we had, I love just buying those sets on eBay, honestly. Sometimes they're older with older instructor guides, but they're great deals. And then what I have is I just have like a shelf of books, and they're in an order. And so the girls, my older kids can just have a book to read for assigned like school reading time. So they really like to have assigned school readers because those books are just so amazing. Now the ones that are assigned are normally like a step easier to read than the Read-alouds, I've noticed. They're like a little shorter, a little bit easier to read. So it's not like a struggle for them to read them, but it's not easy reading either. It's like a good in between. It's like normally a little harder than maybe their easy reads that they would choose in their free time, but not as difficult as like the Read-alouds. I feel like the Read-alouds are great. They were great for us because I had a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. Sonlight E was good. It was, you have to pause and kind of explain what's going on sometimes, but that kind of makes it fun. So for Bible, we tried a lot of things with the girls this year. In the past, I've done a Becca Bible and done like just their Bible story series, which is great, probably through about 5th or 6th grade. But this year, since they were 5th and 7th, I felt like they were ready to kind of read their Bible on their own and for us to discuss at some point. The struggle for us came with when to discuss and when to kind of go over that Bible reading plan. What I ended up doing was on the YouVersion Bible app that I already have, we found a Bible reading plan that the three of us could do together, and we could kind of comment on it together. And that was great because, I was doing it on my own, they were doing it on their own, and we could kind of see each other's comments. Now, what I wish we would have done a little bit more of is like talking about it, the three of us together. And so that's one of my goals for next year, is to do a better job of sitting down and discussing maybe what we got out of that Bible reading. If you've heard of like the Hear Journal method, it's you read some Bible, you maybe pick out a favorite verse, you explain what that verse means. That's the E. The A is apply the verse, and the R is respond to the verse or that scripture passage, and with like a prayer that you write down. So that the Hear method, HEAR, is really, I've used it for many years, and it's really great in journaling, and you can easily discuss it if everyone is reading the same passages and picking out what they learned or got from that passage and applying it and praying about it. That ends up being great for discussion. And also just like a really good way of growing and learning about God and growing close to Him, which is where, where I want to get my girls, and that's my hope for them, that they could kind of grow in their Bible learning. But I will say that was a hard part of this year, is like just finding time for all the kids and all the things that they needed. And what I did was I ended up doing Bible time with my younger kids, and then what fell off the plate was the older kids. So would love to do a better job of that next year. But I guess if you look back, what we did well was we did a little bit of those Bible reading plans together. One thing that I think might be kind of fun is to do like a little Bible study with questions, like on just one book of the Bible. That would kind of help guide our discussion. It might be good for them as they're kind of early in this phase of Bible study, like independent Bible study. So anyways, that's it for my 7th grader. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later. Bye. Oh yeah, and one more thing. I said that I would discuss this at the end of the video. I said I was going to discuss some things that I had like ideas for next year and how I could improve it. One thing is that I have this sheet like I use for my older girls, and it's like their task list, and it has all of their things that they have to do that day. They actually, even on this list is like piano, because they do that in the mornings. Maybe like PE, like I want them to like do something physically active or like run a mile or something like that. That's on this list. Now, my older girls have done great with this, and it's been a great tool for us. I'm still trying to get my younger kids on board. I think they're like kind of on the verge of being able to be a little bit more independent, but not quite there. So what I think needs to be improved with this, because like I said, some of our things were falling off the plate, is I need to have maybe less on here and some timestamps. So to help my oldest kind of stay on task and not get so bogged down into one subject, to say, you know, between this time and this time, we will be working on science, and then, you know, you're going to be done for the day, and you can't do science for 2 hours. And so, you know, to the detriment of other subjects. So you're going to have this 45 minutes to work on this subject. I haven't really decided what those timestamps are going to be, but like a timestamp to work on each subject, I think would help. And then, you know, if you feel like you really, really couldn't get it all done, well, then let's have a chat and, you know, decide what could maybe not be done that day. You know, I don't want you working like the whole day away on just gobs of subjects. So I really need to be in the loop with like, okay, maybe every day you feel like you don't have time for this subject, or every day you feel like you're never finishing this subject. And we could kind of adjust those timestamps. Because I've never done that. I've never wanted to have like that rigid of a schedule, but I think it would help them see maybe where they're spending too much time and too little time, and help them get things done that we're not having an external pressure. So like spelling, for us writing, that there was no external pressure. And so then what happened is that there would just be days and days and days and nothing happened. So we didn't make really good progress on that. And then, you know, maybe there is a hard subject. Well, maybe that subject gets like a 15-minute homework that day, just because now she's going to be in 8th grade, you know, high school's coming. I think it's okay to talk about like, yeah, you might need to finish it later, but it's probably still not the best idea to just do one subject to the detriment of other subjects that just won't get done. And for us, what that meant is like kind of getting behind in math. And that had never happened to us before. I think it was because she had too many other hard subjects. So I really want to make sure that math doesn't get behind. That's the one that you really feel when you get behind in. So I think that's going to be our top priority, and then just help her with that. And then I think, you know, as we do this, I think that she'll kind of gradually kind of get the feel for like how long to spend on everything. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's one of the things I'm considering doing for next year.